I developed this shelf-stable instant biscuit mix with just 3 ingredients, and believe it or not, all you have to do is add water. Into a large mixing bowl, you're going to add 4 cups of self-rising flour, and after that, you're going to add 3/4 cups of powdered buttermilk, and then next, you're going to add 1 cup of butter powder. And once you finish adding these ingredients, you're just going to whisk them together for at least 30 seconds or until they're well combined. You can also use a blender or a food processor for this. Now you can find powdered buttermilk at the grocery store as it is sold under the brand Sacco Pantry. As far as butter powder, you can find this on Amazon or local emergency supply stores. So now I'm going to show you exactly how the biscuits come out with the mix. So you're going to add 2 cups of the biscuit mix into a separate bowl. Depending on the size of the cutter that you're using, this should yield anywhere between 4 to 6 biscuits. Then once you have the amount of biscuit mix that you need, you're just going to move on to the next step in the process. The only other thing we're going to add to the bowl is 2/3 cups of cold water. It's not even required that you use whole milk or liquid buttermilk for this. Now, I do have a question for you all, as I'd like to hear your opinion on this. As mentioned, one of the 3 ingredients in this instant biscuit mix is self-rising flour. Now, for a long time, I was very snobbish when it came to self-rising flour. As far as I was concerned, using self-rising flour is cheating because anyone who knows their way around the kitchen should be able to work with and doctor all-purpose flour if a recipe requires it. And frankly, if you have to cheat by using self-rising flour, in my opinion, you weren't a real cook or a baker, but instead a dirty, stinking, rotten cheater. As the old-fashioned saying goes, use a lie and the truth ain't in you. And I suppose since we're on the subject, the same goes for self-rising cornmeal as well. Over time, though, I can say I've become more enlightened about it. So the way I've worked it out in my mind is as long as you're using all natural or minimally processed ingredients in your recipes, that counts as cooking from scratch. Now, for those who don't know, self-rising flour is essentially all-purpose flour that includes baking soda and acid and salt. Baking soda, salt, and the acid that's included are all natural compounds, meaning they exist in nature and require minimal processing. Knowing that, by extension, self-rising flour can also be considered a product that is minimally processed. It is still in raw form, and you still have to combine it with liquids and or fats to make something edible. So I'd say food that uses it can still be considered from scratch. It still feels like a shortcut on some level, but not necessarily a bad one. That said, what are your thoughts about self-rising flour being a shortcut, and even self-rising cornmeal? Do you consider someone who uses those items to be a dirty, stinking, rotten cheater? Or are you like me and feel it's perfectly acceptable? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So getting back to the video, if you're watching this in the first place, I assume you've made biscuits from scratch before. So you didn't need to hear me recite everything I did up until this point, as I'm sure you know how the process goes. And if you don't, well then that's just too dang on bad. No, I'm kidding. If you would like to see a full tutorial on making biscuits from scratch, I have a separate video for that on my channel where I break down the process along with the science and techniques step by step. So now that the biscuits are all snuggled up together and looking pretty, we're going to place them in the oven. And it's similar to if you were to make them entirely from scratch. You're going to bake them in the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for around 12 to 15 minutes. And I just removed them from the oven now that they're done. One thing you should be mindful of is because we're using dehydrated butter in this recipe, the biscuits won't get as tall as they would with regular butter, mainly because they're lacking the steam from the water inside the butter as it evaporates while the biscuits bake. That being said, this recipe is perfect for those days when you just want to make a quick batch of biscuits without having to freeze butter, grate butter, make sure the milk ain't spoiled, etc. It's literally just 5 minutes of prep time. And because the dehydrated butter is far more concentrated, these biscuits are even more savory than the ones made with regular butter. In terms of storage, the mix should be good for up to 12 months as long as it's refrigerated in an airtight container, otherwise the buttermilk can turn rancid. And I recommend using a 64-ounce mason jar. You can also double or triple the recipe for this mix as well if desired. As always, you can find the full recipe, including step-by-step instructions and detailed measurements, linked in the description below. Also, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more of these recipes, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.